One thing's for sure, no matter how the outlook of America seems to be, the positive energy moving towards it, Americans are still struggling. There's a new report that shows that 60% of individuals could not even afford a $1,000 problem if something were to happen at their home. There's another report that shows that we still have way too much delinquency when it comes to credit cards and auto loans. Another report shows that insurances went up again by double digits this year. People are not able to afford it anymore. And then we heard that Doge is wanting to cancel, pennies because it costs too much to make. We have a major push for crypto and tokenization, even from BlackRock and big players. What's actually happening to our money? Well, we heard about the AI stuff, and all of a sudden we hear that China has an AI that's even more technological savvy than even ours. So it made me think, as someone who is a prepper, who someone wants to live sustainable, what are 5 things that I should be making sure that I have covered my boundaries with, to make sure that I'm doing the things right? Because ultimately it's going to come down to you either buying into a system because you're broke and need help, and you're willing to say, government, do whatever for me, or you're willing to take care of yourself. Let's discuss this today. 5 things that you should be doing this week. It's Sunday. Start the week off right and say, okay, this is where I'm going to change it, because I want to be independent. I don't want to be dependent on AI. Klaus Schwab came out this week and said that what AI is doing, it will show who is useless in a civilization. Wow. There's another report from Yuval Harari. Remember, he said a long time ago, he said, if we can keep people drugged, fed, lazy, and fat, we can control the population. Don't you think that's kind of what they're doing? If you have no money, you have no medicine, you have no insurance, you have no way to work, then you will rely and be a dependent on the government. Let's discuss all this today and 5 things that you should be doing this week to have that independence. Let's jump in. Hey guys, welcome to the Max. Thank you so very much for being here today. If you are new to our channel, go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell. Give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down, that's okay, but let us know what you think about the content of today's video. I want to hit on a few things first, and then this is why we have to make sure that we're taking care of these 5 things. Now again, you think, well, Colby, you do these videos, and we learn a little bit, but honestly, if you would just do these 5 things, you'd realize how much better and how much less stress your life would be. Let's go over some of the things that, and the reasonings I'm saying these 5 things are the most important. There's a new report out from Epoch Times. It says 59 to 60% of Americans do not have enough savings to literally cover a $1,000 emergency. There's a new report from Walmart as a grocer saying people are not able to buy as much as they once did because of the grocery cost. And that's a big concern again for their projection. Now, Walmart will be fine, but there was a projection showing that everybody's having to use debt to pay for things. They're having to buy more things that are mandatory to take care of themselves versus just extra additives. They can't splurge like they once did. And of course, a report showing 60% of people can't even have $1,000 to pay for a necessity. Now, that's not saying that everybody's loaded and rich and you're supposed to have tons of money and that makes you happy. That's not actually what I mean there. What we're saying, though, is if you run into an issue and a problem, you either go in more debt or you have to borrow more money or you literally go without. As America in a first world country, when we're giving billions of our dollars away, especially tax dollars, is that right? Can't afford groceries and can't afford a major issue in a home or a car or a washing machine or a dryer mess up. $1,000 seems like it's a lot, but it's actually not a lot of money, especially when you think about how much it takes to repair something nowadays. This report shows that everyone is pretty much living paycheck to paycheck when you talk about the 60%. It says that fewer Americans have equivalent of a financial safety net to cover anything now. And again, I know I could be talking about you, so that's why we're going over this list. A quarter of respondents said that they would be able to fund $1,000 in an emergency expense of their financing. However, it would be used as a credit card, meaning they don't have the money, but they have the debt. And that's what scares me, is because we're depending on debt to take care of us versus having true funds to take care of us. I'll go back to a quote that Klaus Schwab said. It says, he vows and shows that most Americans, as AI gets smarter, as machinery gets smarter, the fact that many humans will not be needed in their workforce. Along with them not being needed in their workforce, they will need something like a UBI. They will need something like a basic income that the government provides. Well, we've seen that with a very, very socialist push. Now, not with Trump, but with governments whole wide in the global push to say, you know what, the more that we use AI, the more humans will not be in a need anymore because these jobs can be covered for a lot less money. Well, that's not encouraging, especially if you think, okay, well, they could possibly take my job. And what's so crazy is they're not just taking manufacturing jobs and blue-collar work. They're becoming smart enough where they're taking doctorate jobs and white-collar jobs and lawyer jobs, legal jobs. This AI is becoming very dangerous, not for the fact of the security and surveillance, the fact that it could literally take jobs away from Americans that are trying to take care of their families, that are already strapped. What happens when you have financial problems? You have stress, you have marital problems, you have problems all across the board because money, even though we don't want to admit to it, causes a lot of stress because when we don't have it, we're stressed trying to get it. When we do have it, we're stressed trying to keep it. And it causes issues and it could cause problems for your whole family. And this brings up, we did this investment with Sam Altman and Oracle, which again, both of those are very shady. I'm not for this big push, this big $500 billion investment. But here's where I want to come back and say this is why I think they did it. China's DeepSeek, if you've not heard DeepSeek, look at it, research it, rocks Trump's $5 billion AI project. It says that right now China is building AI and their capabilities where it took $10 billion to build infrastructure. Here in America, it's taken $10 million there. The infrastructure AI is so forthcoming and so over the top and so much stronger in China to where now America almost can't compete. So I think that's why you're seeing the investment that Trump is starting to make. The future of humanity is being decided as we speak, what this article says in Zero Hedge. It says, and it is not decided on the battlefield. It's not decided in the Middle East or the Taiwan Strait. It's decided because the smartness and capabilities of technology is now superseding humans. I don't know if you saw the last Mission Impossible movie where basically it was a sub basically shooting another sub based on the AI technology, and it was made where they thought they were talking to humans. We make jokes about it on X or Twitter. You see these AI generated forms where like Trump and Biden are hugging, and same way with Zelensky and Putin hugging, and it's cute, it's funny. You see, like there was a meme yesterday about Barack and Jen hugging, and AI is generating that. And I know it's fun and games. I know it can be like, oh, this is just dystopian movie stuff. I mean, that's what happened in Mission Impossible. What's what happened in Hunger Games? What you don't realize is China has this capability. The 15-minute smart cities, the fact of social credit scores, all that stuff's already happening in China, and they have their AI to thank for it. So now we're trying to compete in that market. And again, the thing that scares me the most is when we try to compete in that market, what happens is we are then basically enslaving our people even though we don't want to admit to it. It says the next generation will deal with the physical virtual infrastructure of AI generation to where it will be smarter than the average human on any particular job. It's saying there's no job that you could do that would be better than what they can do. And that is scary. There's a new report that shows double-digit hikes in homeowners insurance over the last 2 to 3 years. Again, being that you see all these wildfires, all these hurricanes, and what these insurance companies do is either they pull out of those or they adjust the rates to all us other people, and we have to pay for it. Insurance is completely wrong and creepy and almost like it literally is a Ponzi scheme too. But instead of trying to let the government take over it, insurance should get fixed by government saying, look, either open competition, make better policies and regulations where they're not monopolized, and you have to help people. I mean, that's what government should be doing, is not fixing it because they can't fix it, but they make an environment to make it better. Meaning you allow 15 or 20 different insurance companies to fight over this client versus 1 or 2. Because when we allow just 1 or 2 insurance companies to be in the state, like for instance, Mississippi has one healthcare provider that's, that you consider private care. Now, that's just one provider, so they can set the terms and set the price, and guess what? You have to go along with it. Insurance. They only have 3 different property insurances in Mississippi, and 2 of them are depreciated insurances, and the other one is a full coverage insurance, meaning your home can be covered, but it's going to depreciate under one insurance, and the other one you've got to pay extremely high amounts because the housing markets went up, because everybody's got to pay for everybody else's homes, basically. So therefore, our insurance is going up because there's not enough competition, there's not enough rules and regulations to apply to make a better environment for insurance. So can you afford insurance? That's why a lot of people are not having insurance anymore. When all of a sudden something happens to your home, and bam, there you go. You're without anything. Your biggest asset gone. And you have no way to rebuild, or to depreciate insurance where you realize you get half of what your value is. Americans are struggling. Let's go back to Walmart. Walmart put a report out showing that, where their low and middle income folks used to still be able to buy and afford groceries and still buy some discretionary stuff, the higher income earners would come in and buy the things that they needed, but pretty much now the high income earners have become the middle income earners, and they are struggling to get by. Everybody's using debt, and the middle and lower income people are having to use more of government assisted programs. That should scare us. Why do we want to put ourselves in that predicament? So we're looking for this administration to do better, and yes, I hope they do. But we have a housing crisis. We have delinquency, the most delinquent we have been since the 70s, 80s, and 90s, even over 2008 on automobiles. People can't afford what they're actually driving. Insurance rates are out of the roof. People are having crisis with buying homes. They're paying rent. Groceries can't afford. All that, along with the fact that AI is starting to take jobs. Now, all you people who believe in crypto, it's amazing that now you see a crypto presence, you're like, oh yeah, good. This is great. This is going to be great for us. Parallel society. You better not push for that, because then you're actually losing your parallel society. You're losing your society that gives you freedom, which is dollar bills. When you have dollar bills, you have freedom because you can buy, trade, sell, and barter without anyone knowing. Crypto is not the same. Why do you think BlackRock is pushing so hard? They're pushing the SEC and the government so hard to get in tokenization and ETFs that deal with Bitcoin. Why do you think they're pushing so hard to get into the crypto markets now? Because they know it's another form of control. If they're over that form, just like they're over the stock market, then basically they control the whole market once again. One thing that most people can't control, though, is silver and gold. We go back to this every time. The things that we've gotten right for thousands of generations, it may be the fact that they're right because they actually work. It's like cows. Cows actually are good to have on our ground because of regenerative practices. Don't get rid of them. Let's go back to them and realize that could actually help our grounds regenerate and grow more prosperous grasses and food. But no, again, we think we know better, and so therefore now we have AI technology that is almost going to rule over us. We're in debt up to our eyeballs, and we have no money, and we're needing government to take care of us more. More people are on food stamps, more people are on government assistance when it comes to insurance and housing than any time in history. So do I think that this is right that Trump is getting illegal immigrants out? Yes, because what it's going to do is open up those jobs that we've passed along for so long to maybe have Americans back working. And you better start, because without Americans learning how to work and make a paycheck, they will never have anything. Now let's go to the 5 things that you should be doing this week so you're not going to be hindered by a lot of this going on. Number 1, you have to get on a budget. Now, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here. You have to get on a budget. If you make $1,000 or you make $10,000 or you make $100,000, whatever you make, it has no bearing on what you make, it's on what you spend. I know individuals who make $25,000 to $30,000 a year. That would be considered quote-unquote poverty in America, but have more financial freedom than people making $150,000 a year because they do not know how to control their budget. So number 1, you have to control your money. You have to know where your money is going at all times. If you can't afford pizza this week, you can't afford pizza this week. It's simple as that. If you can't afford XYZ this week, you can't afford XYZ this week. And you have to learn to, number 2, cut up the credit cards and get out of debt. Quit relying on credit cards to be your emergency fund, because if it's your emergency fund and always something you fall back on, you will always be in debt. The Bible says you are a slave to the lender. Please get out of debt and start getting on a budget. When you get on a budget, you start seeing where your money goes, and therefore you can free up money to go to debt. Now, people say, I live paycheck to paycheck. That's in this time, you probably are, because it has been a rough few years. But I promise you, if you start writing your money down, you would realize how much you're spending on some things that you may need to cut out. One thing we've learned, when me and Misty were, just married, we were completely broke. Too broke to even, this is before streaming now. This is in 06, so you couldn't have Netflix or Amazon Prime or nothing like that to watch movies. So we had DVDs, and we watched DVDs and stuff like that, because we couldn't afford TV, like satellite TV. So I went out and I got an insurance license and started selling just enough insurance to cover a satellite television. At that time, we thought that was the best thing in the world. Another thing we did when we started getting on a budget and trying to get out of debt, in which we didn't really have a lot of debt, but when we started really picking up the pace, we used to go out and eat this favorite restaurant. It's a great restaurant. We loved it. But when we got on a budget, we realized we can't afford to eat at this restaurant. It wasn't even this high-end restaurant. It was just a little restaurant downtown. And so what we did is we started learning to cook at home and trying to replicate that meal, which we sucked at. We were terrible. But what we would do is treat ourselves to the dessert at that restaurant, because we love the dessert. Misty loved their chocolate decadence at that place. And at that time, I was eating a lot of carbs, so I didn't care. I love bread pudding there. So what we would do is we would cut out the $40 or $50 meal, or $30 or $40 meal, whatever it was at that time, and we would sacrifice and still buy the $5 or $7 desserts. We would go to town and grab the $5 to $7 desserts and make our own food. Now that sounds so little, but that's memories that we would have to say, that's how we got on top. So number one, get on a budget. Number two, get out of debt, cut up the cards. If you can't afford it, you simply cannot afford it. Now that brings me to the third point. You got to put some money up. I don't know if y'all Monect a lot, but Monect is a way that you can contact me. And it's a great program, and I'm not trying to PR for them. I don't work for them or anything like that, but I'm on Monect. A lot of times if people email me or message me, I cannot get to it just because we get so many emails and it's hard to go through them. But if you truly want to question me, or you truly want to add something to me and me directly talk to you, you can Monect me. There's a link below. You can see it. But anyways, this lady Monected me, and she asked about this progress. She's trying to get out of debt. She's trying to save money, but should she pay herself? Well, what I was telling her is, yes, there comes to a point where you've got to start putting some money back, because things like fridges mess up. Things like cars mess up. Things like little problems happen. So if you want to get out of debt, at the same time, you've got to learn to start paying yourself a little bit of money. So like for us, when we do our budget, we tithe, we pay ourselves some money, and then we write out our bills and start getting out of debt or getting our payments done. That's normal payments every month, insurances and so forth. So you have to start putting a little money back. Now here's the thing. What I've learned is the more cash, gold, and barterable assets that I have, the more freedom that I have. Now, I can't pay people, and I'm not going to, if I have to get a fridge fixed, I can't pay them in gold, or I can't pay them in ammunition. Understandable. So you're putting up that cash, and what I've learned is when I pay people with cash, I get a better deal. Also, I don't have to use my credit card or my debit card that charges them 3 or 4%, so they usually give me a discount too. So I've learned to save money and pay cash for things. Because one thing we've done in our mind, there's a survey that said, if you learn to pay things with cash out of your wallet and more is leaving your hand, the more it hurts you. It makes it feel like you're making a bigger sacrifice. Your wallet gets lighter. You see those dollar bills that you've worked so hard for leave your hand. He said that's why Amazon has got such a good marketing, because they allow you just to push a button and you buy it. When we use plastic, or when you use self-pay, or use when we use electronic paying methods, we tend to spend more money than we actually need to. When we pay with cash, we learn to save money. It is a survey. Go out and actually look it up. If you learn to use cash and you learn to save cash, then you start realizing it's more valuable to you. You feel like you've earned a lot more because you're starting to put up these stacks of physical money. And that goes back to When we start saving, we learn other forms of saving. We learn how to buy gold. We learn how to buy silver. We learn how to buy munitions and brass and self-defense tools. We learn how to do those stockpile methods. Well, that's kind of the same process here. We start paying ourselves, we start getting out of debt, we start building budgets, and then therefore it helps us get on a better outlook because we have a more freedom-oriented outlook. Simple as that. And number 4, you have to learn to be independent. And what I mean by independence, have you thought about buying a seed vault? You're fisting to get to springtime. Have you thought about learning how to grow a few crops? Not only does it make you feel better to be in the sun and to have your feet on the ground and to be outside, even if you're on a porch growing in pots, there is a independence of growing food that you feel that's almost, it's like, oh, I think we were meant for this. Isn't that funny? When I'm on my farm, it's as stressful as it can be, as stressful as animals can be, as stressful as growing crops can be. We become one with the earth because this is what God created for us to do, to grow the food for us to eat. When we become one with independence and learning where our food comes from and learning how to grow our own food, then we learn less waste. We learn to eat at home and not buy trash food in town. And we learn what true food is. If you go and you harvest an animal or you harvest lettuce out in your garden, you're going to have more value in that and want to eat it, want to partake of it because of the hard work you've put in it versus a box of macaroni and cheese. There's just a difference. So independence comes with food sustainability, not eating out, learning how to actually cook food. Not only are you saving money, but you're learning how to grow some food. What we've seen is groceries have went up 30 to 40%. For instance, this week, prime example, you're sitting and you see right there's eggs, that's water glassed eggs. I went to Walmart this week because we had a birthday party. You know, if you watched my vlog video, Life of Kobe Mack, we had Misty's birthday, then we had Salah's birthday. And so we were going to buy, balloons and stuff like that for the girls. And I went over to the cold section. I always like going over to see what people are paying for meat because we don't really have to buy meat at stores. And there was not one bit of fresh chicken in the whole store. Walmart, not one bit of fresh chicken. The eggs were up about 30%, and there was not a hold on them, but there was most people buying them literally off the shelf, and there was some stragglers. People were buying the cheapest eggs, so they were buying the white eggs that you can get for less money. Like the cage-free and organic were still there, but for the most part, eggs were sparse. Chicken was gone, and bananas and beef were sparse. Now, why do I bring that up? Because what we realize is if AI is doing more to take our jobs, if we're struggling to pay for things day in and day out, if we see that we can't actually grow our own food, we have to rely on other people to grow it for us, then we're at the beck and call of the grocery store or the farmer or the government. Then we realize, okay, well, what about the food that we have? Is it good for us? Well, no, that raw food is not good, so you need to learn how to eat this processed garbage food. 70% of what's in grocery stores are traditionally processed food or over-preserved food because guess what? It's got to stay on the shelf for you to eat it. I mean, try this with a loaf of bread. Make a homemade loaf of bread, set it beside you, and then buy a loaf of bread from the store, and the one that you made will last maybe 3 days, and it'll start tasting like a piece of wood or molding. The other one will stay for weeks. Do you think those preservatives are good for our bodies? No, but that's what we have to rely on because our independence is gone. Same with my milk. I have raw dairy milk. We drink raw dairy milk every day. That milk, after about 5 days, it just gets nasty smelling. It's just not good. It tastes like the cow. And so it kind of collaborates. So we pour it into the feed of the hogs, and if we don't drink it, the hogs drink it. So we never waste because it's now old milk that's providing bacon. Now if you go to this Walmart, you can go get milk that lasts 2 months. It's not normal. So the independence of food is going to be the key to your future. Having sustainable money, having no debt, having a budget to start saving and bartering and stockpiling, but having food independence, it will be key for you to make it. Now, fifthly, your health. You know how your health gets better? Because you're eating better, because you're actually taking care of yourself. You're being more outdoors. You're starting to get the sun. You're starting to grow crops. You're putting your hand in the dirt. You're realizing that you have a broken food system, and when it's broken, it's going to make you more sick. What did we talk about yesterday? Why is the FDA together in any kind of form? Why do we have the Food and Drug Administration together? Because the food that we're putting ourselves on tends to make us more sick. Now we've become dependent on medicines, and so therefore you're dependent on someone to provide them. I have an individual in our family said this week that his knee was hurting. He feels like it's always inflamed. And I have a nurse in the family along with Misty, but they were saying, well, get off sugar. You'd realize if you cleaned up your diet how much better you would feel. And so hopefully we've impacted him to where he's going to feel better and start doing things without, of course, great to lose weight. Yes, great to clean up your diet, but ultimately you're going to feel better. Medically, you're going to feel better. I told you yesterday, why, if you go back and watch yesterday's video about the hundreds and thousands of % worse we are off by the way that we've messed up our diets to where we're sicker and more dependent on medicine than we've ever been. Well, if we learn how to take good foods in, learn to use medicinal herbs and medicinal foods that are good and beneficial for us in their natural form, then we may not be as sick as we thought. And we may not be as worried about going to the pharmacy always or the doctor always. You know how long it's been since we've actually had to go to the doctor? Aiden went to the doctor for the heart thing. And because it made us a little fearful and frightful. But to be honest with you, before that, I can't remember the last time that we actually went to doctors for just routine sickness. Because we don't do it. If we don't feel good, we learn how to take care of it herbally. And we learn how to make sure that we're taking care of it maybe with our Jace Medical, our emergency prescriptions. But ultimately, the less we have to incur our life into the medical field, the better. So now let's go over our list again. Number 1, you budget. You understand where your money is going and where it does not need to go. Number 2, you got to get out of debt. Get out of credit card debt and learn to realize debt is not the solution, it's the problem. And that goes for our national leaders too. Number 3, we learn to stockpile cash and put up money and put up value for the emergencies. But when we start doing that, when we start realizing there's holes in our budget, we can fix them, then we learn to get other things because we're becoming more independent. So we buy gold, we buy silver, we buy physical, tangible goods that are worth something to us. Number 4, we realize that the most independent we can be is with our food. When you can grow your own food or you can put it up on the shelves, then you are building an independence that they cannot take away from you. And then 5thly, when you're eating healthy, when you're financially stronger, when you're doing better on your budget, then overall you're less stressed, less anxious, less worried, and you're eating better, you're spending more time at home, you're making memories, and therefore you're not dependent on medicines and problems to always go to the doctor and pharmacy for. Now I know there's some people that have medicines that are, literally, without medicine, their life will be in danger. I understand that. But there's a lot of Americans who could get off some of the things they're on just by cleaning up their diets and by living better lives. And it would make them feel better. A lot of times if we look at our food system and see how broke it is, then we probably realize how bad our medicine situation is. Go look at the testimonials, how people were able to get off those forever medicines that they're on, those daily occurrence medicines, those monthly occurrence medicines that they have to be on. When they cleaned up their diet, they realized they didn't need the medicine. Isn't that amazing? Guys, let me know your thoughts. All these stories reference a few things, but they all come back to one thing. Your dependency on someone else. And what I've done is said, I want to make an about face, 180 degree, and I want independence from all that. I want Trump and I want them to do great as Republicans and conservatives. But truthfully, the more they're out of my life and the more freedoms I have, the less regulation I have, the better. I don't want to have to deal with the government daily. I don't want to have to worry about them coming to my home. I don't want to have to worry about them impacting my life. I don't want AI in my life. But see, if we're dependent on a system, then therefore it doesn't matter what you think you want. It's what you think you've got to have. It doesn't matter. Because if you're dependent on them to provide your food, your medicine, your way of life, your UBI, your everything, then you will do what they say because guess what? You're a dependent of theirs. My kids, I love them to death. Of course, because I love them, I do right by them. And I take care of them. But remember, they're dependents. Now, they may do okay in the world at 5 and 7 years old if they had to, but I doubt it. Because they're dependents. They depend on me to feed them. They depend on me to take care of them. They depend on me to put this roof over their head and to build fun things for them and have birthdays for them. They depend on me because they're dependents. At one point in time, they're not going to be dependents, and so that's what we're doing. We're teaching them how to be independent as they get older by having food, by being smart with money. And see, each one of my kids has envelopes of cash, and they keep them, and they understand the value of it because they know how hard it is. So we don't allow them to spend it all. We make them tithe. We make them give. We make them help. We make them do things so they can earn their money because we're trying to build these little dependents to be independent. These 5 things will help you. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think about this video. Again, I want this to encourage you because we are in a world that's not encouraging always. So let me encourage you. These 5 things can change your life if you allow them. God bless.